Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Senator from the 6th. Y'all were having a hard time getting out of caucus today, I see. Both the majority and the minority party. We must have some exciting things on the floor today. I'm proud of you. Recognize Senator from the 6th.
Good morning, Mr. President. Yeah, we're running a little late today. A lot of great things to talk about to help our great state. But more importantly, Mr. President, we got a bunch of great pages here today. From Washington, we have Addie Armour. From Wiggum, we have Emma Osborne. From Pineview, Veda Bloodworth. From Kennesaw, Christine and Jonathan Braun. From Washington, Savannah Birch. From Cochrane, Ethan Davis. From Macon, Henry Etheridge. From Atlanta, Braden Gott. From Donaldsonville, we have Riley Harrington. From Toccoa, Ellie Horton. From Dawson, Addison Ingram. From Newton, we have Abigail Lanier. From Atlanta, Sophia McCormick. From Washington, Reese Newsom. From Marietta, Aman Patel. From Milledgeville, Elias Smith. And from Atlanta, we have McLean Welch. Y'all give these pages a big round of applause. We appreciate you being here to help us serve the great people of the great state of Georgia. Mr. President, the Journal has been read and found to be correct. So I would move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal. Unless you want me to read it, I'm more than happy to. There's only, 45 pages or so. Shall I start? I know. All right, I guess I'll read the Journal. The Senate met pursuant to adjournment at 10 a.m. today and was called to order by the President. Senator Brass of the 6th, me, reported that the Journal of the previous legislative day had been read and found to be correct. By unanimous consent, the reading of the Journal was dispensed with. Just like I'm trying to do right now. The Journal was confirmed. The following communications. The following communications were received by the Secretary. Office of the Lieutenant Governor, February 4th, 2026, in the year of our Lord. Secretary Tripp, the Committee on Assignments, has delegated to the President of the Senate the authority. I did make a motion, Mr. President. I'd be more than happy for you to entertain that motion.
All right, Senator. You introduced the pages.
I did.
You did a great job, too, Senator.
I know. I saw you paying attention back there.
I'm reminded every day of what a fantastic rules chairman you are. Every day.
I remind myself of that every day, too.
All right. Is there objection to dispensing of the reading with the Journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the Journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to confirmation of the Journal? Chair hears none, and the Journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and references to Senate bills. Secretary.
Senate Bill 577 by Senators Watson of the 11th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 12 and 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated.
Natural Resources.
Senate Bill 578 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act establishing in DeKalb County districts from which members of the County Board of Education shall be elected, approved April 12, 1960.
State and local government.
Senate Bill 579 by Senators Harbin of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated.
Government oversight.
Senate Bill 580 by Senators Rahman of the 5th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia. Senate Bill 581 by Senators Williams of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to...
Services.
Senate Bill 582 by Senators Williams of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend
Health
chapter.
and Human Services.
Senate Bill 583 by Senators Halpert of the 39th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 4.
Agriculture.
Senate Bill 584 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend.
State and local government.
Senate Bill 585 by Senators Parks of the. Senate Bill 585 by Senator Parks of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 586 by Senators Williams of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Public safety.
Senate Bill 587 by Senators Still of the 48th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Public safety.
Senate Bill 588 by Senators Jones the 2nd of the 22nd, a bill to be an act to amend Titles 34, 48, and 49.
Finance.
Senate Bill 589 by Senators Brass of the 6th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 590 by Senators Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 of Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to animal protection.
Agriculture.
Senate Bill 591 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 592 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapters 5 and 6 of Title 16 and Chapter
Judiciary.
10. Senate Bill 593 by Senators Hatchett of the 50th and others, a bill to be
State and
entitled.
local government. General.
Senate Bill 594 by Senators Bearden of the 30th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 4 of Article.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 595 by Senator James of the 28th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 596 by Senators Mangum of the 55th and others.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 597 by Senators Mangum of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 6.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 598 by Senators Mangum of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Ethics.
Senate Bill 599 by Senators Anavitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be
State and
entitled.
local government. General.
Senate Bill 600 by Senators Parks of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Ethics.
Senate Bill 601 by Senators Halpert of the 39th and others.
State and local government.
Senate Bill 602 by Senator Parks of the 7th and others, a bill to be.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 603 by Senator Parks of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 604 by Senators Cowser of the 46th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to crimes and offenses so as to provide the Attorney General concurrent jurisdiction with district attorneys.
Committee on Investigations.
Senate Bill 605 by Senators Cowser of the 46th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Committee on Investigations.
Senate Bill 606 by Senators Cowser of the 46th.
Committee on Investigations.
Senate Bill 607 by Senators Cowser of the 46th.
Committee on Investigations.
Senate Resolution 868 by Senators Hatchett of the 50th and others, a resolution.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 875 by Senators Cowser of the 46th and others, a
Committee
resolution.
on Investigations.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
First reading references the House bills.
House Bill 320 by Representatives Kelly of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part
Natural
1.
resources.
House Bill 519 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and
Finance.
others. House Bill 634 by Representatives Barrett of the 24th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Education and youth.
House Bill 689 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend
Government
Article.
oversight.
House Bill 792 by Representatives Montham of the 17th
Judiciary.
and House Bill 1001 by Representatives Wade of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7.
Finance.
House Bill 1024 by Representatives Hong of the 103rd and others.
Banking.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Donatucci of the 105th and others.
Education and youth.
House Bill 1070 by Representative Hagan of the 156th.
Finance.
House Bill 1085 by Representatives Petra of the 166th and others.
Finance.
House Bill 1185 by Representative Stration of the 104th.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1259 by Representatives Dubnik of the 29th.
Education and youth.
House Bill 1277 by Representatives Barton of the 5th and others.
Transportation.
House Bill 1329 by Representative Steffens
Health
of
and
the
human
1.
services.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary Reed reports the standing committee.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 551, do pass. Senate Bill 278, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Goodman of the 8th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 306, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 465, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 498, do pass by substitute. House Bill 1199, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 552, do pass. Senate Bill 542, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 406, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 42nd District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 565, do pass. Senate Bill 524, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 473, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 447, do pass by substitute. Senate Resolution 668, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass of the 6th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 857, do pass. House Bill 1083, do pass. House Bill 1084, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary, read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Bill 216 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, Georgia Judicial Retirement System, membership in the system for individuals employed as the Director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Qualifications Commission, provide. Senate Bill 339 by Senator Orrock of the 36th and others, Employees Retirement System of Georgia, semi-annual post-retirement benefit adjustments for all beneficiaries, provide. Senate Bill 424 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others, Transactional Gold and Silver Act, enact. Senate Bill 475 by Senator Kemp of the 38th and others, charter school funding, local boards of education to treat local charter schools no less favorably than other local schools. Expenditure of the proceeds of a special purpose local option sales tax require. Senate Bill 489 by Senator Goodman of the 8th and others. Board of Commissioners of the Judges of the Probate Courts Retirement Fund of Georgia allowed to set monthly dues. Senate Bill 503 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others. Insurance, rental home marketplace guarantees from the definition of property insurance, exempt. Senate Bill 523 by Senator Goodman of the 8th and others, education, public schools, and post-secondary educational institutions to consider anti-Semitism in the same manner as discrimination based on religion, authorize. Senate Bill 540 by Senator Anner Vitarte of the 31st and others. Online internet safety, certain disclosures related to controversial AI services require. Senate Resolution 624 by Senator Setzler of the 37th and others. Officer Drew Haynes Brown Memorial Intersection, Cobb County, dedicate. Senate Resolution 771 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Senate Study Committee on Adoption and Permanency Affordability, create. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Recognize Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 2nd, 7th, and 12th and 26th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, senators from the 2nd, 7th, 12th, and 26th will be excused. Any other motions to excuse? Any other motions? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 34th, for what purpose you rise?
I'm waiting to talk to Hillary.
Senator from the 34th, for what purpose you rise?
So we gotta, she's emotional always.
Lights on.
I didn't rise.
You wave. It is now time for the morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. I now recognize a good senator from Rockdale County to introduce our pastor of the day and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Senator?
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. We will do our pledges. First to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Georgia flag. Pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, and the principles for which it stands. Wisdom, justice, moderation, and justice. I get the microphone today. Hallelujah. I am delighted to introduce to you the chaplain of the day. He is the Reverend Dr. Eric Wendell Lee, Sr. He has a litany of accomplishments and experiences from various disciplines and fields. A graduate of Morehouse College, Atlanta, Georgia, Pastor Lee earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree with honors in history and was thereafter deemed by Vanderbilt University Divinity School as their Kelly Smith Scholar. Deeply affected by the plight of the poor and the disinherited, Pastor Lee concentrated in ethics, religion, and society at Vanderbilt, receiving honors for his senior project. During this time, he served as a radio talk show host at Fisk University and labored with Nashville, the city government, in workforce development. Pastor Lee also worked as a professional child advocate in Indianapolis, Indiana, and in Atlanta, Georgia. Subsequent to receiving the Master of Divinity degree, Pastor Lee was ordained into the Christian ministry. Thereafter, he continued in the pursuit of the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus via youth ministry, music ministry, and the preached word. In May of 1999, Pastor Lee was called to the senior pastorate of Springfield Baptist Church in Covington, Georgia. As a result of his proclaiming and explaining the gospel of Jesus Christ, his calling has contributed to an explosive era of church growth at Springfield. A third-generational pastor, Pastor Lee has boldly pursued the Lord and continues to navigate Springfield through the intricacies of God's vision for qualitative spiritual development and quantitative growth. Spiritual growth continues to be manifested at Springfield Baptist Church. Membership has grown exponentially from 162 members to over 10,000. Understanding the necessity of education and preparation, Pastor Lee returned to the academy as a Doctor of Ministry candidate in the Redemptive Leadership track at the Gordon Conwell Theological School and completed his doctoral studies in 2019. Pastor Lee and his beautiful wife, Meek Lee, are 2007 graduates of Leadership Georgia. In 2008, Pastor Lee was recognized by the Atlanta Business Chronicles as one of the Atlanta's 100 most influential pastors. I present to you the most capable, dynamic pastor, Dr. Eric Wendell Lee, Sr.
To Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, and to our state senator Tanya Anderson, and to this esteemed body, I greet you all in the name that is above every name, the name to which every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. I shall read for you from the Gospel of St. Mark, the 11th chapter, beginning at the 15th verse. These very familiar passages, this very familiar passage of Scripture, a very familiar event in the life of Jesus the Christ. The Bible says, when they arrived back in Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out the people buying and selling animals for sacrifices. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves, and he stopped everyone from using the temple as a marketplace. He said to them, the scripture declare, My temple will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have turned it into a den of thieves. This is the season of examination, spiritual inventory, and self-discipline and sacrifice. I come to you today on the 8th day of the Lenten season 2026. It's when Christians are compelled to do introspection, to acknowledge that there are practices and ideas and even sin that restrict our intimacy with God, that compromise our communion with God. The Apostle Paul says that we go through Lent that I might know him, not only in the power of Christ's resurrection, but also in the fellowship of his sufferings. We walk with Christ during these 40 days, knowing that every day and every step leads us closer to the cross. So let a person examine themselves. Can you follow Christ at a time when it's inconvenient? Can you follow Christ when the consequences are the greatest? Lent is when we are compelled not just to make sacrifices, but to become sacrifices. Paul says, I beseech you therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, that you become a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your expected or reasonable service. Lent is when Jesus takes his intensity and his intimacy to another level. There's a sense in which Jesus is running out of time. Yes, Jesus is compassionate, but Jesus is also cranky. The stakes are at their highest. It's this week when they're arguing about the greatest, and Jesus says, whoever wants to be the greatest has to come to me like a child. And if you're going to be the greatest of all, you have to be the servant of all. It's during this time that a would-be disciple wants to follow Jesus, but wants to say farewell to his family, and Jesus says, no one who puts their hand on the plow and looks back is worthy of the kingdom of heaven. It's this week when Jesus goes looking for figs on a fig tree, finds none, curses the fig tree, and the leaf and the tree shrivels and dies. He's compassionate, but he's also cranky. And it's Jesus in Mark 11 who went to the synagogue, turned over tables, cast people out, says, my house is to be a house of prayer. You've made it a den of thieves. In that moment, Jesus turns individual piety into the expectation of institutional piety. If individuals are examining themselves, then the institutions that they run ought to have the same values. If we claim to be Christians, then the institutions that we run ought to have some Christian value. Individual righteousness is compromised when our institutions are corrupt. When I was in seminary at Vanderbilt Divinity School in 1995, the Southern Baptist Convention apologized for slavery and the failure to support the civil rights movement on their 150th anniversary. The Catholic Church apologized in 1998 for their silence and their lack of decisive action during the Holocaust 50 years earlier. As I lead a Christian church in 2026, I'm compelled as a Christian leader to ask myself, are you neglecting, suffering, tolerating evil that you will one day have to apologize for in the future? Are you leading in such a way that your children or your children's children would have to apologize for what you tried to produce as Christian virtue. The state of Georgia, and I've done this about 6 times during my tenure as pastor, be the chaplain of the day. And it's interesting that Lent always coincides with lawmaking. I don't think it's a coincidence. Is there any evidence in our laws that we have gone through the season of Lent? Does our legislation reflect the love of Jesus Christ? As we stand at the precipice of a 250-year celebration of America, we have to remember that there have been days when America has had to apologize for its legislation. The 3/5 clause in the Constitution, the treatment of the original 33, Jim Crow laws, putting Japanese Americans in internment camps, the crime bill. What are we neglecting or tolerating today that could possibly shame our children or our grandchildren 5 years from now, 50 years from now? Some time ago in England, a senior legislator wrote a scathing editorial in a paper about a junior legislator. A few days later, he saw that junior legislator in the bathroom. He came up to him in the bathroom and said, "I want to take this opportunity to apologize to you." The junior legislator said, "Thank you. But for future reference, I would rather you insult me in the bathroom and apologize in the paper." Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for the day that Christ went to the temple and said that this is out of order. God, help us to find those places in our ideas, in our patterns of behavior that are not in order with you. And we will be so careful, God, to give your name all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. Amen, amen, and amen.
If I could have everyone's attention real quick, please. If I could have everyone's attention real quick. We got a legendary ball player standing behind me right here. A guy that if you grew up like I grew up, you saw him seem like every night on TBS. You know, the Braves were playing all the time. So, Secretary, read the resolution for us.
Senate Resolution 837 by Senators Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others. A resolution recognizing February 26, 2026 as Dale Murphy Day and urging the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame Committee to induct Dale Murphy into the National Baseball Hall of Fame and for other purposes. Whereas Dale Murphy spent 14 of his 18 years in Major League Baseball with the Atlanta Braves, and he is only one of 11 players in baseball history to have played in 740 consecutive games. And whereas during his illustrious career, he twice received the National League Most Valuable Player Award, was a 4-time recipient of the Silver Slugger Award and a 5-time Gold Glove Award winner, and was selected to the National League All-Star Team 7 times. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize February 26, 2026 as Dale Murphy Day and urge his induction into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I would like to have everybody's attention real quick. I need everybody's attention. That means just kind of quiet down and listen. But it is an honor to have Dale Murphy here today. He was obviously, in my case and a lot of other people's cases here, he was kind of a childhood hero to all of us. He played 14 years with the Atlanta Braves. He was kind of on the cusp of everything that we now know as far as, you know, almost a 24-hour cycle of baseball and sports and everything else. And I can fondly remember going over to my grandmother's house. Didn't matter what time of day it was. It seemed like there was a Braves game on TBS, you know. And Dale was always the superstar that everybody cheered for because he played the game like it's supposed to be played. He played with a lot of heart, a lot of compassion, and a lot of class. And that's just what kind of person he is. And he and his lovely wife, Nancy, have 6 kids, did you tell me? 8 kids. Now get ready for this. 20 grandkids. They got 20 grandkids. He's got a minor league and major league team right there.
3 grandkids on the way, 3 on the way.
And then 3 on the way. Oh, wow. My goodness. We got to start us a club league here. So, but at any rate, we're so glad to have him here today, and just an honor to have him, and honored for the big moment he has coming up for the Hall of Fame. And to introduce him properly is our senator from the 32nd. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. It's an honor to recognize February 26, 2026 as Dale Murphy Day in Georgia. Mr. Murphy, who joins us today, spent 14 of his 18 years in Major League Baseball with the Atlanta Braves and is one of only 11 players to have played in 740 consecutive games. During his career, he was a 2-time National League Most Valuable Player, a 7-time All-Star, a 4-time Silver Slugger recipient, and a 5-time Gold Glove winner. His career statistics include a .296 batting average, 2,111 hits, 398 home runs, and 1,266 RBIs. But he also earned distinction off the field through his consistent support of numerous charities, including the Dale Murphy Foundation, to support foster children through youth baseball, and by setting an example as a faithful husband and father. Dale was a hero to millions of children, including many in this room, and often the last player to leave the field, ensuring that they all received an autograph. Today, we honor his outstanding career representing our home team and urge that he be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. With that, I give you Dale Murphy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Lieutenant Governor Jones, Senator Kirkpatrick, and distinguished members of this body, thank you for this incredible honor. The support I felt from Georgians over the years, and especially with all the talk about the Hall of Fame, has been incredibly humbling to Nancy and I. The effort that germinated here in Georgia on my behalf to get into the Hall of Fame this past year didn't work this year, but I'll be eligible again in 3 years, and so we're going to give it another whirl. I wish my wife Nancy could be here with me today for so many reasons. She helped me get through my career. She said I knew I was in a slump when I went to her for batting suggestions. She goes, Dale, maybe you should talk to your hitting coach. I go, you've seen me hit more than he has. I wouldn't have had the career I had without Nancy, and more importantly, I wouldn't have the beautiful family that we have now. We have 8 amazing kids, 20 amazing grandkids, and I'm so thankful that Nancy, through the ups and downs of professional baseball, helped me keep things in perspective of those things that were most important. I had a lot of memories driving up here this morning from Fayetteville. My son Jake and his wife Ari and their 4 kids live in Fayetteville now. I passed the site of Old Fulton County Stadium. So many memories, and I'm so thankful for that. We spend about 7 months of the year out west in Utah and 5 months of the year here. We still have a lot of things going on here. Ever since I retired until our children left our house, every Christmas morning, wherever we were, we would have a Southern breakfast to remind us of the days of being here in Atlanta and all of the good friends and Southern hospitality that they extended to Nancy and I and our kids. The Braves, a little over 50 years ago, took a chance on a skinny high school kid from Portland, Oregon, and I'll be forever grateful for the chance to play for the Atlanta Braves. But we have a Southern breakfast, and we still do it once in a while, but we did it every year, as I said, until our last child left the house. We'd have biscuits, country ham, grits, hash browns smothered and covered, and whenever and maybe a Coca-Cola every once in a while. But all our kids were born here, either at Piedmont or Northside. A couple were born at Northside, the rest at Piedmont Hospital, and this is home to the Murphy family. Our kids, when they come back and visit, they say, something special about this place, and we say, yes, there is. This is a special place in our heart. And again, Nancy and I are so, I might mention, now that I can get Vidalia onions anywhere in the country, whenever I see one, I grab a couple. I just wanted to say thank you very much again. I could go on and on about all the thoughts and the memories I have, but I just wanted to tell you, on behalf of Nancy and I and the Murphy family, we thank you for this incredible, incredible honor. I want to wish you all the best. Good luck to you and all the serious work you have to do. I'll let you get back at it. And one more thing, go Braves. Thank you very much.
If anybody was wondering, it is Law Enforcement Day today, and we're glad to have all our men and women from a lot of different, yeah, clap. I see you up there wanting to clap, clap. Many men and women from all over the state and a lot of different divisions of law enforcement are here today, and we greatly appreciate each and every one of them for being here today. Secretary, read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 739 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a resolution recognizing February 26, 2026 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the state capitol and commending law enforcement officers in Georgia and for other purposes. Whereas law enforcement agencies provide police services in the state of Georgia that are aimed at achieving more effective and efficient crime control, a reduced fear of crime, an improved quality of life, and an improved police legitimacy through a proactive reliance on community resources that seek to minimize crime-causing conditions and ensures that all Georgia citizens are served in a professional, ethical, and equitable manner by establishing strong commitments with all segments of society based on trust and positive professional relationships. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize February 26, 2026 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the state capitol and commend law enforcement officers in Georgia for protecting our communities and for putting their lives on the line every day. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. If I could get everybody's attention real quick. We definitely want to recognize these fine folks behind us right here, and to introduce us and speak to the resolution, I've got my senator from the 29th who is he doesn't just talk about being about law enforcement. He's a retired major from Muskogee County Sheriff's Office of 31 years. And so he's lived and breathed it. And I can tell you right now, he is somebody that has your back in everything that he does down here in the State Senate and the General Assembly. So I'd like to recognize Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for being here. My brothers and sisters in the balconies, thank you all so much for taking your time and showing up. I'm here with some special guests today that are the best at representing law enforcement. I have Ms. Charlene Hurd, who is the president of the Fulton County FOP Lodge. Carlton Stallings, retired Georgia State Trooper, who is a past state president and past national trustee with the Georgia Fraternal Order Police. Homer Bryson, who takes care of the pensions through the Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund, which has no state tax dollars in it. He takes care of us each and every day. Chris Moore, who's an executive director on the state FOP board and manages all legislative matters for the Fraternal Order Police. And three very important members of the First Responder Caucus here in the state Senate, Senator Tim Bearden, Senator Chuck Payne, and Chairman John Albers. We always stick together and stand up for each other. And to give a brief statement, I would like to ask past State President Carlton Stallings to step forward.
All right.
Thank you very much, Senator Robertson, and thank this body for recognizing law enforcement, our brave men and women, and the job they do out here every day making our communities safe. As I heard one of the speakers say this morning, nothing works without public safety, and that is true. I have an election going on back home where I'm at now, and anytime someone walks up to me and asks me for their vote, the first question I ask them is, what's the most important function of government? And unless they say public safety, I move on to the next candidate, because that is what it is. We're lucky here in Georgia. I have traveled this nation for 20 years talking to other states about law enforcement issues, and we're lucky in Georgia to have the support we have from our governor, our lieutenant governor, our Senate, and our House. We have really great support for law enforcement, and continue that support. Recruitment is picking up. We're getting more and more officers. We're getting salaries up and up, but don't forget about them when they retire. That's very important too. Money and gets them into the job. What keeps them into the job is benefits and retirements. That has to be good. You will see some legislation this time concerning that. Please give it its due attention, and we need your support for our retired law enforcement officers, if you would. Again, I accept this on behalf of the men and women of law enforcement. Thank you for what you do. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We'd like to recognize our Doctor of the Day today. They're making their way up here. And to introduce our Doctor of the Day, I recognize the Senator from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my pleasure to introduce our Doctor of the Day, Dr. Natasha Savage. She is a true Augusta lady, having graduated from A.R. Johnson Health Professional High School, one of the first health magnet schools in the state of Georgia. From there, she became a top honor graduate at the University of Georgia. She also completed her residency at MCG in 2011, and she's been on the faculty of MCG since 2012 and serves as the Senior Associate Dean of Graduate Medical Education for MCG. And we also have MCG students here today, too, and so today is a fitting day to have her as Doctor of the Day. My pleasure to introduce our Doctor of the Day, Dr. Natasha Savage.
Thank you, everybody, for having me today. As already stated, I'm an Augusta, Georgia native, born and raised. I completed medical school as well as residency at the Medical College of Georgia, and now I'm a professor of pathology at the medical school. Essentially, I do hematopathology, which is taking care of patients with leukemia and lymphoma and other blood disorders such as sickle cell disease. But I was appointed to the Senior Associate Dean role of Graduate Medical Education in 2021, and that's where I oversee all the residency and fellowship programs at the Medical College of Georgia, which is the second largest sponsoring institution for graduate medical education in the state of Georgia. We have over 50 ACGME accredited programs. As a matter of fact, when I was standing on the Senate floor, I found out that we received accreditation for our 52nd program, which is vascular surgery. So we're very excited about that. And we thank the legislators for their significant support of the physician workforce, including graduate medical education, research for our physicians, et cetera. So thank you for having me today. It's a blessing to serve as Doctor of the Day and a blessing to meet all of you.
All right, Senators, I have a special guest with us today, or guest with us today, that I want to recognize. The Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 651 by Senators Walker III of the 20th and others. A resolution recognizing and commending the 2025-2026 4-H leadership teams and award recipients and for other purposes. Whereas 4-H members consistently demonstrate the ability and leadership necessary to be champions and serve as outstanding representatives and officers of the young people of Georgia. And whereas Robert Thomas of Putnam County serves with distinction and dedication as State 4-H President. And whereas Melanie Beersmith of the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension has worked diligently as State 4-H Leader, Director of 4-H. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Robert Thomas, State 4-H President, Melanie Beersmith, State 4-H Leader and Director of 4-H, and the 25 to 2026 4-H District Presidents, 2025 National 4-H Conference Delegates, 2025 Leadership and Action Winners, 2025 Dean's Award winners, 2025 William H. Booth Award honoree, 2025 Rouse Rising Star Award recipient, 2025 Volunteer of the Year, and 2025 Outstanding Lifetime Volunteer Award recipient for their numerous accomplishments. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Do it. Colleagues, I'm excited to recognize 4-H and their leadership teams here today. For generations, 4-H has helped shape the character, leadership, service, and service mindset of youth across our state. Through hands-on and civic engagement, these young people are gaining the skills they need to succeed and to give back to their communities. I was privileged to go to the 2026 Georgia Junior National Livestock Show, which happened to be in Perry at the Georgia National Fairgrounds this past weekend. There were thousands of livestock there, thousands of children and family. It was a lot of 4-H'ers there, a lot of FFA kids. but I was so proud of the young people showing their livestock and what they learned through that. And I picked up this, what I'll call a premium book, the program for the National Livestock Show. I was flipping through it, and guess what? On page 21, it lists the Champion Market Hog Show winners. And in 1977, it says Larry Walker won the Georgia National Livestock Show. So I was 11 years old. I was a 4-H'er, and I will commend to you, were it not for 4-H and all the discipline and business and things I learned in 4-H, public speaking, and character development, maybe I wouldn't even be in the Senate today. So I really appreciate what 4-H can do to build our future leaders here. So I'm honored to welcome the leadership team from 4-H, representatives from the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension, who make this program possible in every corner of our state, in your districts. I've got on the rostrum with me Robert Smith, who is the Georgia 4-H president. Melanie Beersmith, who's the Georgia 4-H state leader. Michael Towles, Associate Dean of UGA Extension. Jackie Nunn, Putnam County 4-H agent. And Kelly Ashley, Extension 4-H Leadership and Civic Engagement. So please join me in welcoming Georgia 4-H to the Senate and thanking them for the bright future that they represent for our great state. And I'm going to let Robert say a few words, their state president.
Putnam County's fine. I love it.
Lieutenant Governor Jones, Majority Leader Anna Vitarde, Minority Leader Jones, honorable ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, 4-H'ers and staff, good morning. I am Robert Thomas, an 11th grade student at Putnam County High School. I'm beyond grateful to serve as this year's State 4-H President and speak to you on behalf of over 200,000 4-H'ers across Georgia. In the 4th grade, I began my 4-H journey by competing in Cloverleaf Project Achievement, delivering a speech on the basics of fishing. From then on, 4-H grew into something far more meaningful to me. Through this program, I strengthened my love for agriculture, health and wellness, and STEM, while developing my skills in public speaking. The success of Georgia 4-H wouldn't be possible without the hard work of volunteers, county agents, and other adult leaders who impact and inspire youth across our state. On behalf of the University of Georgia College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, Cooperative Extension, and all 4-H members, thank you for your unwavering support of a program committed to making the best better for tomorrow. Thank you.
We have more special guests with us today that we would like to recognize. The Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 585 by Senator James the 28th and others, a resolution honoring Booker T. Washington and for other purposes. Whereas, born a slave in 1856, Booker T. Washington was a visionary educator, leader, and advocate for African American advancement who made enduring contributions to the state of Georgia and the nation through his tireless work in education, civil rights, and economic empowerment. And whereas, Booker T. Washington traveled with Georgia leaders to Washington, D.C. to advocate for legislative support for the Atlanta Exposition. And whereas he founded the National Business League in 1900, an organization that continues to empower black entrepreneurs and recently celebrated its 125th anniversary in Atlanta, affirming his legacy of economic uplift. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body honor and uplift the legacy of Booker T. Washington. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I would like to call on the senator from the 28th District for the purpose of introducing our special guest.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on up, y'all. Hey. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm so honored today because today is not just Black History Day, it's the last few days actually, but it's Booker T. Washington Day at the Capitol. Booker T. Washington was a visionary educator, leader, and advocate for African American advancement who made enduring contributions to the state of Georgia and the nation through his tireless work in education, civil rights, and economic empowerment. Born into enslavement and freed at the close of the Civil War, Booker T. Washington pursued knowledge with unwavering determination, even walking 500 miles to attend the Hampton Institute in Virginia, a school for formerly enslaved people. In 1895, Booker T. Washington traveled with Georgia leaders to Washington, D.C. to advocate for legislative support for the Atlanta Exhibition and successfully pursued President Grover Cleveland to spend 1 hour touring the Negro Building, thereby elevating national awareness of the African American craftsmanship and achievements. Demonstrating his deep commitment in education in Georgia, he personally contributed $1,000 toward the desegregation of schools in Augusta, Georgia. He was inspiring the name of Booker T. Washington High School as a lasting tribute to his belief in opportunity through learning. And it was not just in Augusta, but in Atlanta, and it still stands. In fact, it was the first African-American high school in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's still there, strong. And my mother and father both graduated from Booker T. Washington High School. He was just an amazing person. And I have people who attended Tuskegee. Where's Senator Lucas? Oh, here you are. And he tells us everything about anything my mom and dad didn't tell me, he tells me, because they went to Tuskegee also. Also, I have Senator Gail Davenport. I have Senator Randall Mangum, a whole lot of senators down there that I can't see, the Dean of the Senate, Harbison, and others. But more than anything else, we have descendants, direct descendants of Booker T. Washington. We're on, yes, standing here with us. So I'm honored to present to you Dr. Erica Washington McDonald, the great-granddaughter Also, Douglas Morris, great-great-grandson of Booker T. Washington. Oh, hey, Charles. And I have John Washington, great-great-grandson, Noah Washington, great-great-grandson, Brian Telefaro McDonald, great-great-grandson, and some of the related by marriage, attorney Charles S. Johnson III, and his wife, Sandra Rhodes Johnson, also attorney Christopher L. Johnson. He's the, where are you? Okay, and he's the son of Judge Glenda Hatchett and Charles Johnson. And the list goes on with all of the great people that we have standing here today. Raise your hands. I see so many. I don't know your name. I'm sorry, I don't have the names in front of me. But we are honored, Mr. President, to have Booker T. Washington Day at the Capitol today. Every day is Black History Day, so you're going to be hearing from us more and more. And so thank you, everyone. Let Ms. McDonald come up. Uh-oh, Dr. Rice. Dr. Rice, come up real quick. Can you tell them who you are and what, he's the, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I serve as Chief Operating Officer and VP of Student Affairs at Tuskegee University. And I've been asked to say just a few words, and I'll keep it very brief. Let me thank Senator and everyone in this august body for allowing us to be here today, because 131 years ago, on September 17, 1895, our founding principal, Booker T. Washington, extended the proverbial olive branch to Southerners who may have doubted what 8 million former slaves could present to the economy. With this speech, Washington formally became the leader and spokesman of Black America with the passage of Frederick Douglass. I'll end on this note. Today, on behalf of the descendants who are with me, our Board of Trustee members, Senator James, thank you, our President Dr. Mark A. Brown, for recognizing Washington not just for lifting as he climbed, but also lifting the veil of ignorance. Thank you so very much for having us.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Oh, we have some people in the, up in the gallery. Will you please stand who is with us today? There you are. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to celebrate today. Thank you.
We have more special guests with us today that we'd like to recognize. The Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 683 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution congratulating and commending the United Service Organizations and for other purposes. Whereas the United Service Organizations will be celebrating the 85th anniversary of its founding on February 4th, 2026. And whereas in the state of Georgia, the USO provides programs, services, and expeditionary support at Fort Benning, Fort Stewart, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, the Georgia National Guard, and outreach to all military installations in Georgia to include Fort Gordon, Robbins Air Force Base, Dobbins Air Force Base, Moody Air Force Base, Albany Marine Corps Logistics, Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base, and Hunter Army Airfield. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body congratulate the United Service Organizations for 85 years of dedicated service, commend it for its many outstanding contributions on behalf of the citizens of Georgia, and extend best wishes for its continued growth, development, and success. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I would like to call on the senator from the 39th District for the purpose of introducing our special guest.
Good morning. For 85 years, the USO has served as a bridge between the American people and the men and women who wear our nation's uniform. Since 1941, in times of war and in times of peace, the USO has been offering comfort, a moment of encouragement, and a reminder of home wherever duty calls. Right here in Georgia, we see that mission in action every day across our military installations and at the USO Center inside Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, where traveling service members and military families are welcomed with warmth, hospitality, and care in one of the busiest airports in the world, or the busiest airport in the world. Anniversaries invite us to reflect, but they also invite us to recommit. And today we honor that spirit of service and gratitude that continues to unite communities across this country. I'm honored to be joined this morning by many of our chamber's own service members and Susan Cahoon, USO chairwoman, and her colleagues representing the board, officers, and supporters of the USO. Susan, thank you for your leadership here in the state of Georgia, and colleagues, please join me in welcoming her to say a few words.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak to this distinguished group. We particularly thank the senators who sponsored the resolution and the prompt concurrence in it with which we saw you act today. It is 85 years ago that the USO was founded. It was because President Franklin Roosevelt recognized a need for the public to help show their support for the men and women who were serving during the darkest hours of World War II. While we were founded as a governmental adjunct, today we are completely a nonprofit 501c3 charity supported by the monetary and time commitments of countless thousands of citizens across the United States and companies that have generously supported us, including many based here in Georgia. You heard a bit about the kinds of things we do, but just to take a second, I want to point out some of the people who helped me as the chair do it, who are here today on the dais. We've had the longest serving USO salaried professional. There are some pros and staffers, and we have her, Mary Lou Austin, who's here with me. We have as two of our volunteer board members, both General Ellis, a four-star retired general who couldn't be with us today, and his wonderful wife, Jean, also a board member who is with us today. And my predecessor, retired Major General Wessels, who was the chair of this organization, is here. And the handsome gentleman in uniform back there is one of our constituents with whom we've had a lot of opportunity to liaise, Chief Warrant Officer Franklin of the Georgia National Guard. And when you think of USO, you often think of the USO centers, of which we have one of the greatest anywhere with what we have at the airport and the huge volume of traffic. lost soldiers, lost soldier spouses with little kids who need attending, you name it, the crises we've dealt with. We deal with the recruits when they're first getting their first leave opportunity, and they come back from basic training having gone from sort of slouchy long hairs to short-haired young men who are saying, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and looking very responsible. And they are wonderful to see them, and it's great to have that opportunity. We also help in sadder times with the return of remains of those who are lost abroad and the dignified return of remains. We do other things that you may not realize apart from physical locations like our centers here in Georgia, down at Fort Stewart and on the airport base. We actually have mobile units. They go to some of the other military facilities within the state, and they often are working with the Georgia National Guard, because as I think this chamber will recognize, the Georgia Guard isn't just a group that sometimes, and in fact some would say all too often, gets drawn upon for our missions abroad. And when they do that, there are USO volunteers out there saying goodbye, giving them goodbye packages, and they're there waiting for them at the airport and saying hello, welcome back, thank you for your service when they return. But the Guard does countless other missions within this state. When you have a natural disaster, for example, they're the first people on the scene helping the local volunteers clear out the debris from the hurricane, try to get the water to people. And our wagon with our volunteers are down there. They're bringing fresh water in also. They've got some snacks. They've got something that lets them know, these guardsmen who are giving their time, and guardswomen, that we are there. We still have your backs. And the USO is still trying to fulfill the mission that FDR envisioned when we were first created at a government level, even today as a purely volunteer organization dependent upon local community support, both from individuals who volunteer their time, from individuals who give, and from corporations who support us, both through making time available for groups to come and be volunteers at our centers, or who make corporate contributions. So we thank you for recognizing us on our 85th anniversary, and we look forward to 85 years from now still having a USO that's there to support those who serve us. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th for a point of personal privilege.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues. Today, we celebrate Heritage Week with the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, and this will end our month with our annual Heritage Gala, which will be tomorrow night. And I rise with deep gratitude and reflection today. Many of us are wearing African attire to honor our ancestors, but the truth is, our presence in this chamber itself is a testament to their struggle and their triumph, and why many of us can be here to serve today. Because there was a time in this country when simply being black meant that you could not be considered an American at all. A time when the law said we had no rights. The nation wasn't even bound to respect those rights. It was a time when our ancestors were brought here by force, stripped of freedom, stripped of identity, and told they would never belong. That history is not abstract. It is documented in decisions like Dred Scott, where the Supreme Court declared that black people could never be citizens. And yet, generations later, here we stand, natural-born citizens, full rights, full voices, full responsibility to protect the freedoms our ancestors were denied. That's why even now, when we debate policies around immigration and belonging, the echoes of that past still resonate. When we see proposals that treat people seeking opportunity as threats, or policies that mirror the exclusion our own community once faced, we are reminded that the struggle for dignity, recognition, and ancient history, struggle for dignity, recognition is not ancient history, it is a living history. So as we celebrate our heritage this week, let us remember the journey that brought us here. Let us honor our foremothers and our forefathers who endured oppression so that their children, us, and their children's children could stand in places just like this Senate chamber, shaping laws instead of being denied protection. And I personally stand here because Black legislators before me fought for the right to serve, the right to speak, and to lead. I carry that legacy with me every time I rise to this body. My Black colleagues carry it. And together, we honor them not only with our attire today, but with our commitment to justice, to equity, and the full humanity of every person who calls Georgia home. With that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'm honored to welcome Augusta University students to the Capitol today. AU is the medical healthcare professional university in Georgia with over 12,000 students, with over 8 campuses statewide. I want you to understand, AU is healthcare for Georgia. We have with us today President Russell Keene, his wife Karen. I want to especially welcome John Blaylock, president of the student body at Augusta University, and his colleagues. But as you see AU students here today, please welcome them. Tell them how proud we are of them and how much we want them to gain a quality education and continue to serve the people of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. We're mighty proud of AU, for sure. Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we are honored to recognize 41 veterans from across the greater Augusta area representing an incredible 907 years of combined military service to the United States of America. These men and women served during critical periods in our nation's history, including Vietnam, the Cold War, Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Enduring Freedom. Among them are 4 members of the Women's Army Corps, 18 combat veterans, 4 military spouses, and 1 Gold Star family member, reminding us that service and sacrifice extend far beyond the battlefield. This distinguished group includes recipients of some of our nation's highest military honors: 1 Medal of Honor, 6 Bronze Stars, and 1 Purple Heart, representing extraordinary courage and sacrifice. Their commitment to service continues today through organizations such as the VFW, American Legion, DAV, Patriot Guard Riders, and the Purple Heart Association. On behalf of a grateful community and nation and the Georgia State Senate, we thank each of you for your service, your sacrifice, and your continued leadership. And we have those folks today in the gallery, Mr. President. Please help me welcome them. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. As you're aware, today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and we get to recognize those heroes. And it's a distinct honor for me to recognize a hero who is in the chamber with us today from the Clarksville Police Department, Officer Terry Palmer. On September 7th, 2024, Officer Palmer responded to a welfare check at an apartment complex. And it involved an individual who had made suicidal threats, who was later reported by neighbors to be armed, and it placed the situation at an elevated and imminent level of danger. As the incident escalated and assisting officers conducted a coordinated search of the area, Officer Palmer maintained his position near the front entrance of the apartment and observed an armed subject who was carrying an AR-15 style rifle and was stealthily approaching 4 officers from behind who were unaware of the imminent threat. Demonstrating exceptional courage, decisive judgment, and presence of mind, Officer Palmer immediately advanced toward the armed subject, issued verbal commands, and engaged the individual when he raised his rifle, temporarily halting the subject's advance and preventing an ambush. During the ensuing exchange of gunfire, Officer Palmer recognized the danger posed by crossfire to himself and an assisting deputy. While moving to cover, he physically pulled another deputy to safety by their ballistic vest, shielding both officers behind the structure of the apartment building before transitioning to life-saving measures once the subject was incapacitated. Officer Palmer's conduct during this incident stands as a testament to his commitment to the protection of others despite great personal risk and exemplifies the highest ideals of courage, selflessness, and composure under fire. We will be voting on a resolution to honor him shortly, and it is abundantly fitting and proper that gratitude is expressed for the unique and often unheralded contributions of local law enforcement professionals on behalf of the citizens of this state. If you have the opportunity to meet Officer Palmer, he is here today with us. We just want to thank you for your service, putting your life above others, and it's an honor to honor you and show recognition to you today. So thank you for being here. With that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I rise to recognize Reproductive Justice Advocacy Day at the Capitol and welcome the advocates joining us in the gallery. Can you please stand and be recognized? It has now been 7 years since Georgia's abortion ban was passed, and there have been serious unintended consequences, especially for women who actually wanted their pregnancies. One woman had a serious heart condition. Continuing her pregnancy was medically dangerous, and ending the pregnancy early was important to protect her life and long-term health. But she was taking blood thinners, and to safely have the procedure, she needed to taper off the medication slowly and switch to another. That process took time that her doctor said was medically necessary, but by the time she was ready, she had passed Georgia's 6-week cutoff and could no longer get care here at home. Another woman was pregnant with twins when she learned that one twin had a severe abnormality that threatened her own health and that of her healthy twin. She was told that a selective reduction was not allowed in Georgia, so she had to go out of state. It took time to find a doctor, to arrange travel, to schedule appointments. By the time she finally received care, about 5 weeks later, she had developed sepsis, a life-threatening condition. These are just 2 stories. There are more, plenty more, and you actually have them shared with you today in your mailboxes. These are women who wanted their pregnancies, women who needed medical care and couldn't get it when they needed it. What these stories tell us is simple. One size does not fit all, and every pregnancy is different. Every woman's medical situation is different, and doctors need the freedom to care for their patients without worrying about losing their license or worse, going to jail. Colleagues, I urge you to listen to the advocates who are here today, because behind every policy debate are real Georgia families whose lives depend on the decisions that we make here. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to recognize a special constituent from Cherokee County who's here today with the 4-H group, and she's standing over there in the chamber. You can see her beautiful face. This is McKenna Baskett, and she was crowned this year Royal International Miss Preteen 2025-2026 in Orlando, Florida. She's also the founder of Just Look Around, which promotes STEAM education. She's a Girl Scout, and she also volunteers supporting the Cherokee Homeless Veterans Association and the Live Safe Domestic Violence Shelter. We are so proud of McKenna, and we are so happy to welcome her to the Senate.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 55th for a point of personal privilege.
Ladies and gentlemen, I rise this morning because I think it's very important. I made some comments yesterday, and in my effort to detail how utterly ridiculous the public policy of expending $45 billion on concentration camps for immigrants, some may view my comments to use the $45 billion to fly immigrants out of this country as more than rhetorical hyperbole. Let me clarify this very thing. Yes, let me be very clear. I stand against expending the $45 billion to build detention concentration camps, especially here in Georgia, when we have a public policy from an administration who wants to abolish education, who will not expand Medicare, who will not play fair in the world community. Do not confuse my commitment to the least, the lost, and the left out. While some would welcome a certain hue and fly them into this country because they are a certain color, even those from South Africa, those of a Nordic persuasion, those that have a certain hue but reject others, let me be clear. I stand with the least, the lost, and the left out. I stand with that initial greatness of America that says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send them here, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, to me, to America. We welcome those that seek opportunity. That is our greatness. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That is what is on the Statue of Liberty. That is what we stand for, and we must always be willing to stand for those that cannot speak for themselves. I urge my colleagues to not cooperate with those that are against the least, the lost, and the left out. We must stand with our immigrants. We must stand with our undocumented, and we must stand with all those that are misused and abused for finances. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, friends, and fellow Georgians. Today, in honor of Black History Month, I rise to honor the life and legacy of General Colin Powell, a soldier, a statesman, and a servant leader whose life reflects the very best of the American spirit. Born to Jamaican immigrant parents in the Bronx, Colin Powell understood early the value of hard work, discipline, and faith. Through determination and quiet resolve, he rose from modest beginnings to become a four-star general, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and later the 65th Secretary of State of the United States. His journey was not simply historic, it was emblematic of what is possible in this nation when character meets opportunity. General Powell served our country in uniform for 35 years. As chairman of the Joint Chiefs during Operation Desert Storm, he helped lead one of the most decisive and strategically successful military operations in modern history. Yet those who served with him often speak not of his battlefield achievements, but of his steady leadership, his clarity of thought, and his deep concern for the men and women under his command. He believed leadership was not about rank or title, but about responsibility. He often said, the day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you stop leading them. That philosophy defined him. He listened, he mentored, he built consensus. He understood that strength and humility are not opposites, they're partners. As Secretary of State, he once again broke barriers, becoming the first African American to serve in that role. In doing so, he demonstrated to millions of Americans, including young people across Georgia and this nation, that public service is a noble calling open to all. But perhaps what stands out most about Colin Powell was his integrity. In an era of division and partisanship, he carried himself with dignity and independence. He placed country above party and principle above politics. Whether one agreed with every decision he made or not, there was little doubt that his motivation was always service to the United States of America. For those of us who serve in elected office, General Powell's life is both an inspiration and a challenge. He reminds us that leadership demands courage. not just on the battlefield, but in the arena of ideas. It requires accountability. It requires humility. And above all, it requires a commitment to something larger than ourselves. As a state senator for Georgia, I believe it is fitting that we remember leaders like Colin Powell. In honoring him, we reaffirm the values he embodied: service, duty, respect, and love of country. General Powell once said, "A dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work." His life proved those words true. May we strive to serve with the same steadiness of character. May we lead with the same strength tempered by humility. And may we never forget that public service, at its best, is an act of honor. Thank you. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a point of personal privilege. Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise briefly today to recognize a group, the Georgia Federation of the Blind and Mr. MacArthur Jarrett. We have two bills that we are advocating for: SB 133, which is the Blind Persons Bill, Literacy Rights and Education Act, and the other one is a Senate Bill 222, which is creating a commission for the blind and the visually impaired. And to create this commission, we want the blind and visually impaired to know that we support them, and we're going to do all we can to help them create a commission for them to make the quality of life better for them, and also for the Braille Bill so that children will be able to use this. So today we recognize you, and let me just say that over the years, the state troopers have been very good here at the Capitol for them. They help them maneuver throughout this building, and they are very, very appreciative. But in the Georgia State Senate, we want the blind and the visually impaired to know that we support them. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes our Rules Chairman for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. President. Today I rise to honor the death of a great man, a great mentor, my uncle, Darvin Eason. We laid him to rest a week ago today. Uncle Darvin was born in 1939 in Scriven, Georgia, and grew up, went on to university, well, he went on to ABAC, went on to University of Georgia, and went on and built several successful businesses in ag, became one of the greatest peanut advocates in our state. Was chairman of the board of directors for the Agribusiness Council, was president of the Georgia Peanut Producers Association, and he was chairman of the board for the South Central Georgia Gin Company. He owned Lennox Ag there in Cook County. He owned multiple cotton gins, was a great man. And one of my favorite stories of Uncle Darvin was when I got hired by Congressman Lynn Westmoreland. This was back in 2011, and Uncle Darvin at that time was on the Georgia Agribusiness Council, and he called me up and he said, Agribusiness Council's going up to D.C., and you're going with us, and you can't say no. And so I agreed to go. So Brian Toller, myself, Uncle Darvin, several others, Ward Black, Commissioner Black's son, several others went up to D.C. for a fly-in. And we went and we visited with, one of our first meetings was with Senator Isaacson. And in that meeting, we're going around the room introducing ourselves, who we were, what we did, and Senator Isaacson got to me. I said, I'm Matt Brass from Noonan, Georgia. And Senator Isaacson said, well, oh, and as soon as I say that, Uncle Darvin yells out, he's my nephew. And, you know, and I look back, and he's just grinning with pride. And then Senator Isaacson kind of looked at Uncle Darvin, who he knew, and he smiled. And then he looked back at me, and he said, well, are you related to Rob Brass from Noonan, Georgia? And Uncle Darvin yells out, he's my nephew, too. And you know, again, he was just so proud of his nephews and what we had gone on to do. Well, fast forward, our last meeting of the day was with Congressman Sanford Bishop. Now, Congressman Bishop being from the other party, I did not want him to think I was in there from the Republican side spying on him. So I was going to skip that meeting. Well, we were running late on all our meetings, and we were going to have to fly. You know, we were going to have to catch a taxi together and get to the airport, and we weren't going to have time for me to disappear and then come back. So I said, all right, well, look, I'm going to go to the meeting. We're not going to tell him who I work for. I'm just going to be Matt Brass. I'm going to be Uncle Darvin's nephew. Well, Uncle Darvin said, well, we may not want to tell him that. You know, your Aunt Nancy, we picked him up. He was going to be our keynote speaker at an event, and your Aunt Nancy yelled at him from the whole time we picked him up from the airport all the way to the event. I said, all right, well, I won't be your nephew. I'll just be Matt. So we go on into the meeting, and we're going around the room introducing ourselves, and it got to me, and I quickly said I'm who I was and where I was from, and then I looked to Ward Black or Brian Toller to my left, and when I did that, well, Congressman Bishop politely said, and son, what do you do? Well, I couldn't lie, so I said, Congressman, I work for Congressman Westmoreland. And as soon as I said that, Uncle Darvin yelled out, and he's my nephew. So again, the man's just full of pride for his family. He was proud of things that he had built, things that he grew, whether it was a crop, whether it was a business, whether it was a person. He was just so proud of that, and I was proud to know him and love the man to death. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Senator from the 6th, I love the way you held the resolution over the lights. That was very clever, very clever. Thank you very much. All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from the 18th for a point of personal privilege. Oh, did the Senator from the 18th find his way to the Capitol today? All right, he waves. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 24th for a point of personal privilege. Senator from the 24th, our esteemed Natural Resources Chair, Senator from the 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you.
All right, Senate will come to order.
Mr. President, I come today to the well to recognize a lady, a very special lady. I met this lady back in 1975, the summer of 1975. A few years later, in 1981, July the 18th, she went down the aisle and married this tall, slender, handsome man.
Later on in life, she had 2 beautiful children. Later on in life, she retired as a principal, had a doctor's degree in education, retired from Columbia County School System. She lives on 160 Louisville Road, Grovetown, Georgia. She also has 6 beautiful grandchildren. And Mr. President, I'm here to tell you today that used to be tall, slender, handsome man has the honor to live with her. And dear Heavenly, and let me tell y'all something. Life is good. But today, Mr. President, I like to wish my wife happy birthday. Thank you.
Good job, Senator. That'll maybe get you a kitchen pass for a few minutes. Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th for a point of personal privilege.
Mr. President, we now have confirmation for what we always thought was true, and that is that District Attorney Fani Willis coordinated with the White House, the Department of Justice, and the Jan 6 Committee in her attempt to commit lawfare against President Trump. After fighting open records requests like her office often does, she finally just yesterday released 8,000 documents to Just the News that reveal close collaboration and coordination with the Biden White House, his Justice Department, and the January 6th Commission. See, we already thought this was true because on November 9th of 2022, President Biden put up the bat signal. He stated that we just have to demonstrate that he, President Trump, will not take power. Well, 6 days later, President Trump announced he was running for re-election. The very next day, one day after President Trump announced, Nathan Wade had an 8-hour meeting with the January 6th Commission. Now, of course, much like all of his prosecution, when he's questioned under oath, Wade can't remember anything, who he met with, what they talked about, where they met. He's got tremendous amnesia, Mr. Wade does. But 2 days after that meeting with January 6th, on November 18th, which is 3 days after President Trump declared he was running for office, Wade had another 8-hour briefing, this one with the White House. Why is November 18th significant? That is the day that Jack Smith was appointed special counsel. That was the same day that Matthew Colangelo resigned from the Department of Justice and left to lead the prosecution against President Trump with Alvin Bragg in New York. And it's the same day that Nathan Wade was on the phone with the White House for 8 hours. We now know what we suspected, that the White House waived the executive privilege for President Trump that has traditionally always been held. We knew they waived it for Congress, but we now know, due to the documents released yesterday, that it was waived for Fani Willis as well. During this process, Mr. President, you're not going to believe this, but the White House contacted Fani Willis and asked her to submit for a competitive $2 million bid. Well, that bid then turned into a no-bid contract grant with Fani Willis, and she was granted $2 million in the midst of her prosecution of President Trump. Mr. President, the fix was in. This was lawfare. This was a coordinated effort between D.A. Willis, the White House, and the Jan 6 Commission to do what President Biden said, and that is to demonstrate that he will not take power. The Senate has done great work in uncovering this. I'm glad that we finally have the documents to prove what we have always thought was the case. And Mr. President, sometimes the truth takes a minute to come out, but the truth is now out. I yield the will.
Senators yield the well. Senator from the 26th, what purpose do you rise? Want to speak? Chair recognizes Senator 26 for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, when you look at the color of my skin, it's not dark brown. I call it pecan tan. My great-great-grandfather, that we used to call Big Papa, didn't look like me. He looked like most of you in here. And his wife we call Big Mama didn't look like me. Looked like the majority of the folks in here. So when you're talking, think about it. David Lucas might be some kin to you. We've come a long ways in the South. But Donald Trump wants to be like Putin. He acts like a mafia boss, that the law applies to everybody else but him. He was criminally prosecuted for taking documents that he shouldn't have to Mar-a-Lago. You don't want to talk about the facts about what this man has done. And the reason they didn't release the Epstein files, even though he signed it, now he's been accused of being a pedophile. Now, all of you men in here who have young daughters that are 14 and 15 years old, that ought to mean something to you. He abused a 14-year-old. And as I look around, when he says jump, y'all want to know how high. But what you got to realize, in this country, there's a Constitution. And in a lot of the stuff he's doing, he's trying his power. Putting them ships, those military carriers out there in the ocean by Iran. He's saying, if you don't do what I said do, I'm going to drop something on you. Which means we could be in another war before the president election. He's trying to stay in office. A president who accepted a gift from a foreign country, the Prince of Saudi,
Senator, if you wrap it up, time's expired.
the airplane, the $3 billion in his crypto. I'm telling you, we got a corrupt president. Y'all cannot explain any of the stuff he's done, being a pedophile and everything else. So don't get up here and come down here trying to defend him when everything he's done is in the public.
Senator, time has expired.
Well, Mr. President, won't yield a will. I hate to do it because I got a sermon to tell you.
Thank you, Senator. You can always come back later. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th. All right, Senator waves. We're just going to stand at ease for a couple minutes. All right, we're going to continue on. You have before you a consent calendar of privileged resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Chair sees none. Is there objection to the adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? I see none. Chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Chair sees none. You have before you a consent calendar of local bills. Mr. Secretary, have any objections been filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, no objections have been filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government Operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. The question is on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will. Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th. These new senators, I tell you what. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes the senator from the 55th. He waves. On the passage of the bills, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. The bills on the local consent calendar having received the requisite constitutional majority have therefore passed.
You have before you a consent calendar of resolutions expressing the will of the Senate. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Questions on the consent calendar expressing the will of the Senate. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which are favorable to the adoption of the resolutions? The chair hears none. The reports of the committee are agreed to. Questions on the adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 0, and all the resolutions on the consent calendar having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore adopted. All right, we've had an incredibly productive morning. It is now afternoon. We arranged for lunch in the ante room for the senators. We're going to take Senate will stand in recess until 1 o'clock. We're going to start back sharply at 1 o'clock. Enjoy your lunch.